We're back with the stylistic breakdown. You guys know every single video I made of this year, I have not got a single one wrong. And I gotta be real, guys. This main event is gonna be so bliss. This will not go the distance. They gonna dust both fists. And it's gonna be real violent. They gonna bust both lips. So don't ask me why I'm going Jack. He gonna put him in a pack because JDM stand for just don't miss. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Let's go, man. Jack Della Maddalena. Don't miss. Guys, I did the footage. I did the footage, brother. Like, I'm going to look at this from a non-biased. I see the comments. Kenny never picked Prates to win a fight. Did. You're right, guys. And maybe it's time to switch and go to Prates. I don't know. What am I going to do? I don't know. I watch footage. As you guys know, every time I made a video like this, I've never got it wrong the whole year. I'm talking from Patty Gaethje, from Max Holloway Charles, from even Izzy Pfeiffer, even though I switched it after this video. Whatever I make on this video, even if I switch it after, guys, remember this video is right. Like, because I did research. After this video, I just go off of feelings sometimes. With Izzy, I had to do it because that's my guy. But every time you see this video, Yuri Prochazka, Uberg, you guys see my channel. I don't miss. I am the best main event predictor this year. I know some people don't like this. Some people are upset about this because, brother, why Kenny best? We don't like Kenny. He's supposed to be bad at picks. But I decide to, sometimes, I know when I want to get picks right. And this is one of those ones I don't want to get wrong. I had an opinion before this, going into it. I said, I think it's going to be easy for JDM. Now, footage woke me up a bit and made me look at some things. And what I'm doing here is just an unbiased point of view, a stylistic breakdown, and telling you guys what the smartest thing to do is. I know who's going to win this fight already, just like I knew every other main event, and I get it right. So I won't be surprised when I get this right, but I think a lot of other people will. But I think it's going to be kind of like Justin Gaethje Patty when I was saying Gaethje was going to win and everyone disagreed with me. And then after Gaethje won, we all knew that was going to happen. Exactly what's going to happen in this one. So we're going to get into the video. No more stalling. Before I get into their striking pros and cons and grappling pros and cons and their breakdown, let's get into things to note that I feel like are notable for a fight like this. First, for JDM, he has that dog in him, bro. He's been 5 rounds. But I've noticed he gets more comfortable as the fight goes. So he's one of those boxers. He always kind of looks fluid. He always kind of looks nice. But as the rounds go, you start to see JDM almost unlock a new gear and feel more confident and comfortable in his combos. And he is a combo puncher primarily. So I feel like that's important in a fight like this that is 5 rounds. We're going to talk about Prates in a little bit. But I do think JDM's 5-round experience is a bit more beneficial. And I'm going to explain why. He's been 5 rounds twice. Of course, Islam wasn't pretty, and then Bilal, great fight. But from both of those fights, well, not really both of them, only one of them, because Islam, he's kind of controlling for 25 minutes. But with Bilal, I did notice that he was already doing good against Bilal. Rewatching that fight, he did very well against Bilal. Still think it was a close fight, but since the beginning, he kind of had Bilal, looking a little bit goofy there. I'm not saying Bilal is a great striker, but I do think Bilal stylistically actually is a little bit more overwhelming on the feet than Prates could be, because Bilal kind of just goes in there and puts his chin on the platter. Another thing to note that's very important is that he has fought taller guys, Randy Brown, who's 6'3", 6'4". This is important. I would be a little bit wary of this fight if JDM never went in there with a taller guy. Of course, Prates is 6'1", not 6'3" like Randy Brown, but it is important that JDM has went in there with the size difference, because I did see some habits that he did. He did fight pretty similarly, but it was good to see him go in there when I rewatched that fight, and I think he did really good. And Randy Brown and Prates actually has some similarities that I feel like are interesting. What usually taller guys have, man, when they're leaning back and doing stuff against the fence. And I've noticed JDM can capitalize on that. I'm going to get into that a little bit later when I talk about the striking pros for JDM. And then I did something else to note is that he's never fought a power puncher. Islam's a better striker than Prates, in my opinion. I know they're going to, you're a casual. How can you say that? Prates has never got outstruck. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I think Islam's the best striker JDM went against. He got outstruck, yes, but there's also a takedown threat there, of course. But he's never fought a power puncher. Islam might be a better striker objectively, but it's just not a power puncher. So I do think Prates is his first power puncher, and I think it's a very significant point because we don't know how JDM's chin's going to deal with a really hard puncher. So that is something definitely to note. Moving on to Prates and things to note. He's been 5 rounds as well, so they both been 5 rounds. Against Ian Gary, his 5 rounds looked good. Ian Gary looked like he was wilting. Ian Gary looked like he was trying to get away, So I actually think the 5 rounds is important for both people. So I do want to note that. The only reason I give JDM an advantage is because he's been 5 rounds against people who are going to just mix in wrestling and striking. Whereas I feel like, Prates true. I guess Ian Gary did mix in wrestling, but I do think like Bilal and Islam are slightly better at mixing in wrestling than not slightly. They're better than mixing in wrestling with Ian Gary. So I think that does matter because Prates wasn't really, well, he was brought to the ground a couple times, but Ian Gary isn't as good as controlling and just being a little bit more overwhelming with his presence in there in the grappling. So I do think both of them have 5 rounds, but of course the guy who had 5 rounds more, I'm going to favor their 5 rounds experience a little bit more. This is his hardest fight stylistically. This is not JDM's hardest fight. So I want people to understand that. Now people are going to disagree with me, which is fine. I don't mind. But after you watch this video, you're probably going to switch your opinion, which I have to say, guys, I put in your bets now. JDM is a slight underdog. If you're picking JDM, I'm not saying you are, but put in your bets now. I'll talk about that later, though, because the odds will change, especially people who watch this, like unbiased people who are like on the fence. They watch this. I think I'm going to open a lot of eyes. But he hasn't beat anyone under 34 in his last 5 fights. I think that's notable. Like Neil Magny, great win over a 39-year-old, almost 40. You know, Jeff Neal, great win over a 35-year-old. Leon Edwards, same thing. You know, great win on these 35-year-olds and stuff. You know, he did go against someone who is younger than Ian Gary, but we know how they went. Like, he never beat a prospect. He is good at beating these older guys. Li Jingliang, you know, 38. You know, he's good at beating these older guys. I'll give him credit. He's very good at beating older people, but I feel like it's important. Like, you should go in there and beat them. At least he's beating them in pretty impressive fashion, you know? So that's very important. But the one time he did go against another prospect, I think we all seen what happened. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like, Ian Gary is pretty badass as well. So, yeah, dude, fucking Ian Gary. All right, no more of things to note. Let's get into the striking pros and cons, starting with Jack Della Maddalena. His striking pros, I said great jab and great straight, and I said switch stance because he does switch stance a lot. He can fight in southpaw or orthodox. So one thing about Islam that he did great, he took away his front leg, but even JDM was still able to strike a little bit on southpaw. The thing is, it's just not as comfortable for him. But I do think his jab and his straight are very good, man. Like, his boxing is so good, guys. And like, listen, as a boxing expert, man, I'm in a boxing gym now, dude. So as an expert, man, yeah! Fuck, it makes me appreciate JDM's craft like a lot more. He's really, guys, he's good. I said top tier pressure with solid head movement. Like, JDM will pressure you. He's so reactive. Like, I really am in love with the way he boxes, man. It's like he has good pressure. But he's smart pressure. It's not Bilal Muhammad pressure. No offense to Bilal. There's different pressures in the UFC, guys. Some guys pressure like Bilal to like literally walk forward. Defense isn't on point. They don't really move their head, but they try to overwhelm you. It might work with overwhelming you, but you're going to take a lot of shots. JDM does good pressure because he has pressure and he uses his head movement a lot and has a high guard the whole time. So he's not necessarily easy to land the like wicked clean on. You know, the best bet of landing clean on JDM is kind of like chaining together combos. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in his cons, but I do think it's top tier. I think his pressure is top tier, and I think his head movement alongside with it is just beautiful. I also said rhythmic combo puncher with peak counters. When he gets going in a rhythm, I saw it in the Bilal fight, man. When he starts getting going with his rhythm, I'm telling you right now, he might be one of the most unbeatable people on the planet Earth. Like, he just has good combos. He waits for you to throw. He's out of the way, then he's countering. He's very reactive in that, and he hits a flow state. So if you let him get in a rhythm with his combos, he's going to be so overwhelming and going to be too much for the person in front of him 9 times out of 10. So I feel like that's one of his best weapons, guys. Don't let this guy get in a rhythm. You have to disrupt his rhythm through wrestling. Unfortunately, the guy in front of him, in my opinion, doesn't have wrestling. So it's going to be a little bit of like frustrating for Prates, especially if JDM starts to get in the rhythm, given some of Prates' flaws that we're going to talk about later in the video. Also said sneaky kicks. Like he was throwing head kicks against Bilal and low kicks and push kicks and teep kicks. And I didn't realize how much he throws it until I went back and started watching a lot of his footage. Even his fight against Andre Lusa, I watched a lot from JDM, guys. I watched a lot of footage this one. This is one of the ones I was like, let me make sure I get right. So he definitely sneaky kick game, something you're probably not going to expect from Jack Della Maddalena, man. Like, maybe you do, but maybe I was not expecting it because I just had a thing in my head, you know, of how he fights. And I was right about a lot of things, but the sneaky kicks is something I definitely felt like I had to put in a pro because people don't realize how much he throws it and how effective they really are. So those are his pros. For his cons, I said heavy on the front leg and can get caught when comboed at. So this is important. Heavy on the front leg is very important because most traditional people and who are boxing styles are heavy on that front leg. However, that leaves you open to a low kick. Now, the Islam fight is very significant because it's the first time, like, he's been low kicked a bunch of times against Randy Brown, against a lot of people I've seen. You know, Luso was kicking him a bunch. You know, JDM gets kicked a lot, you know. But against Islam was the one time I think the front leg was actually taken away. And Islam's not even known per se for his low kicks. That was kind of a new weapon that we've seen from Islam, whereas Prates is a lot more known for his leg kicks. So this is a very important distinction that people need to understand, that his weakness is being heavy on that front leg. And even though he can't switch stances are great, he can't take too much low kicks from Carlos Prates. So his heaviness on his front leg will be his biggest detriment in this fight, and I feel like it's worth noting and could ultimately even lose him a fight if you think about it. I'll get into that later. But I did say he can get caught as well when comboed at. Now, I noticed a lot of the times when Belal would land on him, when Belal would do like one punch every time, slip, rip, slip, rip. You can't throw one punch at somebody who's a reactive combo counter striker. You need a combo at him. When Belal would do 1-1-1-2, because Belal would like throw 3 1s into a 2, the 2 would land. The 3 1s might miss, the couple jabs might miss, but the 2 would land. And that's when I start to see, okay, he can get caught. But if you try playing a tit for tat game with him, you're throwing one strike at a time, then he's leaving, he throws. You're not ever going to win it because JDM's a better boxer than 90% of people who fight. So you can't really tit for tat with him. But if you do start to combo things and like kind of overwhelm him with presence and volume, that's when you can land on him the most. I've seen that in a couple JDM fights where I feel like sometimes you're getting comboed at. Even Randy Brown, like he was a little bit floppy and long and lanky, but like he wasn't landing on JDM at all when he was just throwing a jab. But when he was doing 1-1-1-2, he would start to get closer to landing and it would just be a little bit more overwhelming for JDM in there. So I feel like that is an important thing to look at as well. So you got a combo at JDM to land on him, which is a little bit tricky. I'm going to talk about it with why it's tricky for Prates. But now that we talked about his pros and cons, let's get into Prates' pros and cons. Pros, great low kicks. Now, as you can see, we have the first conflicting situation here. Heavy on the front leg going against someone who's great with low kicks. His low kicks are very great because he throws them with some darting force, and it seems to have a problem with everyone he throws it against. Also said he has power in every limb, and he uses every limb. Now, this is important because it's one thing to just be powerful in every limb and not use him. He'll use his elbows. He'll use his knees, which I love his knees up the middle. Honestly, I was more impressed looking back at Carlos Prates. I didn't realize how good he really was. When looking back at him, I see why he's so good. He has power in every single limb he has, and he's throwing every limb. He'll throw that spinning elbow. He'll throw that knee up the middle, and it's one of his best weapons in my opinion. And his hands are just so heavy, which I said for the third bullet point. Heavy hands, especially his straights. We saw how he dropped Leon. Like, I don't know if Leon was chinny, but he literally took Leon off his feet, and it's got to be thudding power. And I think it just comes from the limbs, man. Those limbs, long limbs, just long. And then he always catches people at the very end of their punch, so you feel the impact a lot more. Then I said hand fighting and good movement early. Now, he hand fights a lot. He hand fights to either do one or two things. One, when he wants to set something up. Two, if he's overwhelmed and he tries to hand fight you to give himself some, ground. He doesn't like getting walked down. So you see a couple times where he tries to hand fight JDM, which I don't know if would be the best option to do, but he might do it a couple times. I said good movement early because he moves a lot. Like he moves, he turns the corner, he's on the back foot a lot, he moves, and then he jump into something, and then he'll move. You try to flow. That's how he does it. It's very energy inducing, which is not great in the long run. But early on, if he could do that for a round and maybe catch you and finish you like he did to Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal was fighting pretty good, by the way. Jeff Neal had moments in that fight, but it was just hard to like track down Prates for him. Later that slows down, which I've seen in a couple of Prates' fights that went a little bit longer because not a lot of those happen. But good movement early on. But what are his cons? Because I think these are pretty important against Jack Della Maddalena. Cons: Prates leans / jumps back for his defense, and that's a problem. He does it early. Like when I said good movement, it's good movement, but a lot of the movement's him leaning back, jumping back. Sometimes he will cut a corner, but he's using a lot of energy early, but it's a problem because I noticed even against Jeff Neal, when he was doing that and he got caught against the fence, like Jeff Neal was landing on him. And then even like as he tried to rotate out, Jeff Neal was landing on him. So like, you can't just jump back as defense, especially against someone who combo punches. Jeff Neal can't throw a combo, but when I tell you JDM's combos are 10 times different and 10 times more effective and 10 times better than Jeff Neal's combos, and you don't believe me, sure, we'll watch JDM fight him on Saturday, and then we'll see who has better combos, Jeff Neal or JDM, but trust me, I did my footage. And I said when fatigued, he can't lean back and is stationary super late, which leads me to my next point, which is hands are low and his boxing defense is actually subpar. So what I said when he likes to jump back, it's great and everything, and it works a little bit early. You still have moments like Jeff Neal catching him when he does that and stuff, and other good people could chain together combos. But when his hands are low and like he can't jump back as much because he's starting to fatigue. His actual boxing defense is subpar. He does things like Leon where he kind of just does one of these, but he's not moving because he can't move. And it led to situations like Ian Gary starting to let off his combos a lot more comfortably and land and like almost hurt and finish Prates. I'm telling you right now, it's a problem. Like if you're relying on athleticism to evade punches and you start to fatigue, so now you're stationary and your boxing defense is just putting one shell up and extending your arms because you're so used to hand fighting and you're so used to demanding respect for your space, and you're going against a counter puncher or a combo puncher, that's when the combos are going to start to land a lot more cleaner, and that's when problem little bits start to commence, when problems start to go and problems start to come, you know. And if you don't know what I mean, you're going to see what I mean Saturday. I'm telling you right now. So he just doesn't do well with combos, and the Gary fight showed that. Not only the Gary fight, a lot of fights show that when you pair together combos, whether it's early and he's leaning back, you'll catch him eventually. Whether it's late and he's a lot less movement and he's just kind of standing there trying to work on boxing defense that he just doesn't have very cleanly, that's when it starts to open up worse, which lets me believe that late, like him and JDM late, because you guys know JDM's a dog, like I said in the very first slide, of things to note, especially as the fight goes, he gets more comfortable, and your defense is getting worse as the fight goes. A little bit problem. I think you guys understand where I'm coming from with this. Now there's a problem starting to commence. However, how do I think the striking compares to each other? I think Prates' low kick will be problematic. It will have to be. You know, it's gonna, like the way JDM is on the front leg, he's gonna get it chewed up. But I said Prates' boxing defense will be his kryptonite. I said JDM's combos will be a huge problem, and I said JDM will only get more comfortable as it goes. Everything I'm saying is true. I do think Prates could even steal a first round from the low kicks and just demanding respect with the power. Maybe land some thudding shots to back JDM up. But I just think Prates' boxing defense is a little bit too big of a hole in his game to go against one of the best boxers, if not the best boxer at the welterweight weight class. So this is where the problem starts to commence with these two. It's like one guy's, weakness is being heavy on the front leg, you know, but it's a little bit weird leaning the guy who has puncher's chance here, which is still an evident factor because he can land a shot and hurt JDM, because JDM has never been against a power puncher. So I don't know how he's going to react when he gets rocked, you know. But outside of the power punching chance and the low kick, he really doesn't have much from a skilled based striking, and they're both primary strikers, and it's a 5-round fight. So I know the longer the fight goes and the more comfortable JDM goes, the more problematic it's going to be for Carlos Prates in this instance. However, early it's anyone's game, early it's anyone's fight. But as the clock starts ticking, Prates didn't look like he still maintained one punch power against Ian Gary. It looked like that kind of dissipated, but he was still landing shots, you know. And it also brings me to my next point of, you know how I said for one of JDM's cons was like he can catch him when you get comboed at? Respect to Prates, he's not really a combo puncher. Like, he would throw one knee up the middle, and then that's kind of it. He would throw 1, 2, but that's kind of it. He doesn't really throw that 3, 4, 5, you know, chain combo that might be problematic for a JDM. So really the only striking con he could really fully exploit, in my opinion, that JDM is his being heavy on the low kick. Whereas I look at every single one of Prates' striking cons, and I think JDM exploits every single one of them perfectly, which is why at the start of the video I said this is actually his hardest stylistic matchup, not JDM's. JDM's hardest stylistic matchup is like an Islam, someone who could strike pretty adequately with a good low kick, decent, like great boxing, good counter boxing, and can wrestle. This is not a striking nightmare, or this is not a stylistic nightmare for Prates or JDM, but it is for Prates. So I want people to understand how hard of a fight this is for Prates. So if you are going Prates, I'm not saying change your pick. Please don't. I don't want the odds to shift too much. You know, I want people to have their own opinion. But I'm just saying that if you're relying on Prates winning from points or outstriking him or like low kicking him and landing like big shots to steal rounds, I think it's not that safe of a pick to do, but it's up to you. That being said, we still have to cover grappling because we haven't even touched that. So let's look at grappling. For his pros, I said solid BJJ. Sub threat is real. I don't know why I said sub, but sub threat is real in this one. I said great scrambles, of course. Not that he's going to need them, but you never know. There might be some scramble opportunities. And I said wrestling's all around decent. His offensive wrestling, he'll use it at times, doesn't use it too much. And if he has to defend takedowns, I'm not really worried about Prates taking him down. He's been in there with some better people who tried, like Bilal, and failed. As far as cons, I said you can't get controlled 25 minutes for Islam, you know. So if Islam pops to the corner, it's like, brother, let me get this around. A little bit problem commence for JDM. So his striking cons is like, it's hard to gauge, but like, I guess single legs too, but I don't really expect Prates to go for single legs. But single legs is shown that JDM just can't defend him. He got single legged every time Gilbert Burns took it out easily. Islam single legged him and kind of rugbyed him to the ground. So he doesn't defend single legs well and can get controlled by Islam for 25 minutes. Those are his striking cons. As for Prates, I said, not easy to hold down. You know, some people take him down. I've seen a couple times in the footage he got taken down. He gets back up. He's lanky. He uses his length well. He knows how to get up. He doesn't just stay on the ground and be like a little bit scared guy. He knows how to pick it up and move a little bit. So this is good for him. Also said 80% takedown defense, which is all right. You know, is something good to see. You know, he could defend takedowns pretty adequately. So I think that's something worth noting as well. For his cons, I said submittable. The Edwards fight shown that. Now, I'm saying that because I know JDM has a submission threat. Now, Edwards, who's not great at BJJ, was able to take his back and control him. And towards the end of the round, Leon Edwards went for a rear naked choke that was almost cinched in. He could have almost bulldog choked, almost like he could have hand grip choked it. You know, it was kind of hard. He couldn't have done like one of these, but maybe he could have hand grip choked it. But the submission threat was shown, you know, against Leon Edwards. Now, I know JDM has a more of an ideal submission threat. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of grappling, but what I can tell you is that Prates has shown he's submittable. He only lost, you know, he has lost 3 fights in his career by submission. You know, he doesn't lose much. He doesn't lose often. You know, but when he loses, it seems to be the leading factor. If it's a finish, it's a submission. So I think that's worth noting. Of course, his only loss in the UFC was a decision loss to Gary, but you've been submitted and you've been shown that you can still be submitted by someone like Leon Edwards in your last fight, who you did win. But Leon Edwards is not as good as a grappler, in my opinion, than JDM. So I do think that that him being submittable is something people aren't going to look at. I mean, of course, I don't know who watched the Randy Brown fight. It doesn't even have to be from a takedown. He could hurt Prates, get on the neck and submit him. JDM's not no slouch. So that's another reason of why you probably shouldn't be leaning Prates if you are. But if you are, go for it. I'm not going to tell you to switch your pick. As for the grappling breakdown, I said, I don't expect much wrestling, to be honest. I don't expect JDM to wrestle. I said, however, if it does, it favors JDM. I said he may initiate clinches. I can see JDM initiating a clinch if he gets hurt. You know, I haven't seen him get hurt before, but I could see this be the first time he ever gets hurt, and then he initiates a clinch because he's a little bit panicky, a little bit, you know, scared, which I wouldn't mind and I would understand because rightfully so. You're not going to want to get chinned by this dude. So I can't see him initiating some clinches. And I said the sub potential is real for Jack Della Maddalena. People got to understand that he's able to sub people. His BJJ is not too shabby. And Prates he's defended Leon Edwards, you know, but I haven't seen him defend much chokes outside of Leon. So that's significant to me. So you guys know how the striking, in my opinion, goes and how the grappling goes. Overall, who do I think wins, though? You know, am I still thinking puncher's chance is a little bit too much and the low kick's a little bit too much, or am I going to go the guy who's just a stylistic nightmare? My prediction, JDM by points or KO, and I put sub question mark because I really think JDM can win by any way. I think JDM is kind of significantly better than Carlos Prates. I am a bit surprised that JDM is the underdog. He is the current underdog, if you guys didn't know. I'm assuming that's going to change. I can almost bet money that's going to change, but this is another underdog pick for me. I just think Prates can start well with the low kicks, but inevitably, guys, it's just his lack of boxing fundamental, like defensive boxing fundamentals, that's going to be huge in this one. Like the fact that he relies so much on movement and that kind of dissipates as the fight goes, and then as that dissipates, JDM gets more comfortable as the fight goes. It's like conflicting. It's very conflicting. So one guy's defense, who's already not that great at boxing defense, actively gets worse as the fight goes. Then one guy who already has great combos to begin with actively gets more comfortable and better as the fight goes. So by default, you would think that JDM's almost impossible for him to lose this. I think JDM will rock him and likely finish him. Now, I want to even preface this. I said he starts well with good movement, but even his movement early on, I already told you guys, he moves well, yes, but he still does that thing where he backs up and it's kind of catchable. Yes, of course, that slows down as the fight elongates. And I'm telling you right now, JDM doesn't slow down. I seen him in the Bilal fight. That dog in him, he doesn't slow down. He's okay for those dog fights. And Prates has been in those dog fights too, but he actually doesn't win a lot of those exchanges in the dog fights. You know, he's more looking for one shot at a time, where I feel like JDM's looking for accumulation. And I think accumulation causes damage. I think accumulation wins rounds. And I think accumulation puts wear and tear on the opponent. So by those late rounds, that guy's not going to have the same gas tank he usually has. I think this is going to be the most tired Carlos Prates looks because JDM's ability to mix it up from the body to the head. I think JDM's just going to be a little bit too much, a little bit too heavy-handed, a little bit too much for something Prates has ever seen before. I don't think Prates has ever stood in front of a boxer this clean, this precise, and this accurate. So I think this is going to be the first time from doing that. I think it's going to be a learning curve for him, and I think he's going to get beaten to a pulp. I actually don't particularly think this fight's close. I think the only thing close about this fight is the first round, where Prates can maybe use his length to be a little bit problematic. But like I said, Randy Brown has fought JDM JDM. JDM has experience against these long, rangy guys who has good straight punches and good low kicks. I'm not saying Randy Brown is Carlos Prates. I'm just saying he's a shorter version with more power, yes, but I don't think he's as, I think him and Randy Brown have the same defensive flaws of them leaning back with their chin on the platter, hands low, and I don't think that's going to serve you against someone who's very good of a fundamental striker, and especially in his boxing, and the fact that he lacks the basic boxing fundamentals in the defensive aspect. I think Jack Della Maddalena is going to get it done. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's a pretty solid and pretty easy pick for me. Like I said, I'm the best main event predictor for a reason. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments that disagree with me. I'm not worried about that. I'm sure you guys are going to have the same reaction every single time I make this video and realize I was right at the end of it. A little bit cocky, I know, but I'm very confident in this pick. I hate to say it. Put your bets in now. I have put a two-legger with JDM included on it. Maybe I'll leak that later. Maybe members only. But I've put it in because I do figure JDM's going to shoot to a favorite. Very soon, especially as the more people think. I hope people don't watch footage. I've noticed that, which is why I get a lot of main events right that people get wrong. And I'm hoping too much people don't watch too much footage because I don't want the odds to change too much. But let me know what you guys think about this fight down below. That's it for me. God bless. 2, 3.